In 1926, the United States Supreme Court ruled that an entire town in Ohio had the legal right to ban apartment buildings, not because apartments were dangerous, not because they caused crime, but because the court said mixing apartments with single-family homes was like mixing a pig farm with a mansion. That quote is real. It is in the actual ruling. And that decision, Euclid versus Ambler Realty, became the legal foundation for nearly every zoning law in America. Almost 100 years later, we are still living inside it. Most people think zoning laws exist to protect neighborhoods, keep factories away from schools, keep loud bars away from quiet streets. That is the official story, and that part is true. But here is what nobody tells you. About 75% of all residential land in American cities is zoned exclusively for single-family homes. That means it is literally illegal to build an apartment building, a duplex, or even a small townhouse on most of the land inside most American cities. Not because of safety, not because of infrastructure, simply because of a legal category that was invented in the 1920s and barely updated since. Here is exactly how it works. A city council draws a map. Every parcel of land gets a label. R1 means single family only. R2 might allow duplexes. R3 allows small apartments. Most of the map is R1. If a developer wants to build a 20-unit apartment building in an R1 zone, they cannot. Full stop. They would need a rezoning, which requires a public hearing, which allows any neighbor to object, which can delay the project for years, which makes the math on building affordable housing almost impossible. The mechanism is not a conspiracy. It is a bureaucratic wall that was quietly built over decades, and most people do not even know it exists. So who designed this wall and why? The first major push for single-family zoning came from real estate industry groups in the early 1900s. The National Association of Real Estate Boards, which later became the National Association of Realtors, actively promoted single-family zoning as a tool to protect property value. Their own published guides from the 1920s and 1930s explicitly warned members against selling homes to black families in white neighborhoods because it would, quote, damage property value. The zoning maps were drawn to enforce that separation legally, even after racial deed restrictions were ruled unconstitutional in 1948. The mechanism just changed its label. By the 1970s, a new force took over: homeowners. Once middle-class families owned single-family homes, they had a direct financial incentive to block new housing nearby. More supply means lower prices. Lower prices mean their biggest asset loses value. So they showed up to city council meetings. They formed neighborhood associations. They lobbied for stricter zoning. Researchers now have a name for this coalition. They call them NIMBYs. Not in my backyard. And in city after city, they won. The evidence is staggering. A 2020 study by the Mercatus Center found that restrictive zoning in just 3 cities, New York, San Jose, and San Francisco, reduced the entire United States GDP by up to 2% per year. That is roughly $400 billion of economic output simply vanished because people cannot move to where the jobs are. In Minneapolis, researchers at the University of Minnesota found that for every 1% increase in housing supply, rents dropped by 0.5%. That relationship is direct and documented. But in cities locked into single-family zoning, supply cannot grow fast enough to matter. Look at the numbers in California. The state needs roughly 3.5 million new homes, according to its own Department of Housing. It builds about 100,000 per year. At that rate, it will take 35 years just to close the gap. Meanwhile, the median home price in Los Angeles hit $900,000 in 2023. A family earning the median income in LA can afford a home worth about $350,000. That gap, $500,000, is not the market. It is a policy choice. And the people making that choice are mostly homeowners who already got in before prices exploded. What does this cost a regular person? The Harvard Joint Center for Housing Studies estimates that households spending more than 30% of their income on housing are cost-burdened. More than 19 million American renter households meet that definition today. If you are renting in a major city and spending 40% of your paycheck on rent, that extra 10% is not going to savings, not going to your kids' education, not going to retirement. It is a tax on everyone who arrived too late to buy. A 2018 paper by economists Chiang Tai-Shi and Enrico Moretti calculated that loosening zoning restrictions in just New York, San Francisco, and San Jose would raise the average American worker's wages by 9%. 9%, that is not a rounding error. That is a raise that got blocked at a city council meeting. So what can you actually do? Pay attention to local elections. Zoning decisions are made by city councils and county supervisors, not Congress. These are the lowest turnout elections in American democracy. In many cities, turnout is under 15%. That means a few hundred organized homeowners can block housing for hundreds of thousands of renters. Showing up changes the math. Several cities have already proved this. Minneapolis banned single-family only zoning in 2040, plans passed in 2018. Portland, Oregon followed in 2020. Auckland, New Zealand eliminated single-family zoning citywide and saw rents drop measurably within 3 years. The model exists. It works. It just requires political will that currently gets outvoted by people with more to lose than you have to gain. Now here is the final fact, the one I saved for last because it will sit with you. The Supreme Court case that legalized all of this, Euclid versus Ambler Realty 1926, was decided 6-3. The dissenting opinion, written by Justice George Sutherland's colleagues who voted against it, warned that zoning would be used not to protect public welfare, but to protect private property values at the expense of everyone else. They were overruled. Their prediction was exactly right. And in the nearly 100 years since, no federal court has revisited that ruling. The pig farm logic from 1926 is still the law of the land, and homeowners, developers, and politicians who benefit from scarcity are counting on you not knowing that. If this changed how you see your city, follow the channel. We post the real reason behind everyday systems every single day.